Hey, good day, everybody. Dave Walker here again with the Beta SMB Institute. And as part of our track of sessions that's bringing thought leaders to the forefront for our audience of 4,000 plus members, I'm really thrilled to invite someone who's I've known for a long time. And in fact, I think he actually spoke or at least was in attendance at our very first Beta SMB conference back before there was an institute in October 2017. And that's Dan Slagen. Dan, good morning.
Morning. Great to be here. And yes, I was at that very first conference.
That very first conference. It's great to have you, man. I think at the time you were still working at Alignable as CMO, and you've had just years and years of experience with working with small business. But why don't you give us the 411 on you, and why don't you give us kind of this company called Tomorrow IO that you are working for now and what they're doing?
Sounds good. And it's really appreciate being able to speak to the audience today. And thank you for having me. But Dan Slagen, currently CMO of Tomorrow.io from the Boston area. That's where I'm coming to you live today. Always been sort of interested in small business, and it's really been kind of in my family ever since I was born. Grandfather was a small business owner. My father was a small business owner. I started my own small business, which I ended up selling, but I've also been working in the small business space for more than 10 years, places like HubSpot, Alignable, now currently at Tomorrow.io. But basically what Tomorrow.io is we are a weather intelligence platform. And what we're doing is we're completely changing the way that people are able to see and understand the weather. So at a high level, what we're able to do is tell people, countries, and small businesses and enterprise businesses, but for this purpose, small businesses, how the weather is going to impact their business and their operations days in advance so that they can make the necessary changes that they need to before it's too late. We've all sort of been, around long enough where you look at the weather forecast and you've just sort of accepted the fact that it's a little bit of a coin flip. Is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? 40% chance of snow. What does that mean? How is it going to impact my business? What do I need to do? Do I need to make any operational changes, safety changes? Anything like that. So that's really what we're doing. We're really trying to make weather an easier area for business owners so that it doesn't have to be this black hole of guessing.
Is it somewhat surprising to you as you describe it? Is it somewhat surprising to you that someone has not done this already?
It was surprising to me before joining the company. Mm-hmm. Now that I've been here for about 2 years, we have almost 200 employees at this company. More than 50% of our team is sort of that PhD level data scientists. It's an incredible team of people. They're some of the smartest, most talented, motivated folks I've ever worked with. And when I look at what they're doing and the challenges that they are trying to solve in real time and in forecast, it's just an incredibly difficult challenge to go after. So now that I've been here, I've seen a little bit of what has been here, what the current needs are and what's coming next. And I'm happy to get into that more into detail. Now, no, I'm not surprised. But I certainly was before I joined.
So before we get much further, give us kind of a high level product offering overview. What exactly is it that you guys are delivering, particularly to small business?
Sure. So first of all, it starts with the data, right? If you look at what's been happening in the weather industry for the past 20, 30, 40 years, essentially what you have is a couple large enterprise businesses taking the weather forecast that we get from NOAA and publicly available data, usually coming from governments, and essentially just repackaging a lot of that weather data into sort of either a meteorology-based service where you have a meteorologist on the phone kind of talking you through what you're seeing, mm-hmm. or the general weather apps that a lot of us know and use today that are usually free, or as I mentioned, some type of a product that's really just a white label of what NOAA and the government is putting out there. Now, the problem with that is those types of forecasts were not created for businesses. They were not created for hyper-local, day-to-day, real-time operational decision-making. They're there for major events, for alerts to warn the masses. And that's really how they were created and what they were created for. But we've seen very little to almost no technological advancements in the weather space over the past couple of decades. So first and foremost, this company, and what got me so excited about it, is Tomorrow.io is creating our own proprietary forecasts. We look at public data models. but we have a host of sort of additional data layers. We look at millions of different data points all around the world to create our own in-house models. We're the only companies out there that are running our own weather models here. And that's what's feeding our actual product. So we'll look at things like, sensors on an airplane, or when the windshield wipers go off in your car, or when it starts to rain in a city and the cameras go off. We take all of those different inputs, put them into our models, and we essentially give the best model for the best location for the best job that someone is actually trying to do. So now that we've taken the technology and we've really started to innovate there, the next thing that we do is we move from sort of a service-based offering where you're just trying to figure out the weather to a automated software platform where someone can just come in, put in the location of their business or the multiple locations that they're trying to track, and everything is automated within our platform so that now those locations are monitored 24/7. And the last thing that we do is we actually give people business insights. So again, as I'll show a little bit later in the presentation, we're not telling business owners, hey, it's going to rain tomorrow. We're telling them you're going to see an increase in food orders if you're a restaurant. You're going to see an increase tomorrow night from 5 to 8 in delivery orders. The reason is because it's rain, but expect a 40% increase in orders. So make sure that your staff is prepped, that you are staffed, your delivery is ready to go, and you don't have long wait times, upset customers, those types of things. But it's a multi-vertical platform, so any business can come in and just instantly start using it. If you're a restaurant, landscaping, construction, outdoor event company, again, I'll show you later in the platform, but all of that is just all sitting in one place.
Okay, I'm sure like everybody, show us the platform. This is so freaking cool. Show us the platform.
All right, sounds good. So let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, so now this is tomorrow.io here. And what you're initially seeing is the weather map. This is not all that interesting, but it's a nice place where I like to start because it gives you a sense of what is actually feeding into our software and what's feeding into our API. So I'll start with the map. I'll then show you the insights, and then we can get into the alerting capabilities as well. But if you take a look at the map, let's say you want to dig into Texas. All right, we'll come into here. You start by being able to look based on any location down to the street level, all these different weather parameters that you want to track. We track more than 30, 40 different weather parameters. If you want to look at things like temperature, humidity, wind speed, wind gust, we look at things like air quality as well. Everything is sitting here in the platform. What I also love here is you're seeing a couple of different lightning cells. I really like looking at this because this is something that impacts, whether it's outdoor events or construction or anything that's outdoors. We not only track lightning cells, but we track their movement over the course of the next 15 to 30 minutes. So let's say that you have a location that's sitting right here. You can see that you are right in the zone of those lightning cells where it's going to hit. However, let's say that you have a location that's sitting over here. You need to be aware of this lightning, but as you can see, based on the cell trajectory, it's not actually going to impact your area. So it's really nice to be able to see those kinds of things in real time. But again, this is just the map, not all that interesting comparatively to what I'm going to show. We also have a long-term sort of trends and analytics view where you can graph different types of weather parameters against one another so you can get a sense. But really where the magic comes in is on the insights dashboard. So for instance, let's say that you're a concrete operations company, right? You're here laying concrete and you're going to be laying it near Comerica Bank Tower, just as an example. What we'll do is we'll take all of your operating protocols and we'll upload them into our system one time. So in order for you to be able to lay concrete, you need certain types of weather conditions. You don't want it to be raining over the next day or two, both during and then after when you lay the concrete. You don't want the humidity to be too high. There's other things that go into that. But whatever your operating protocols are, we upload them into our system. We then put the exact location of where you're going to be laying the concrete into the system. And then as you can see here, you're then coming in and you're not seeing a weather forecast. You're seeing what we call weather intelligence to our insights dashboard, but it just tells you exactly what to do and when. And you see this up to 6 days in advance of when you actually need to do a job. So for instance, here, Wednesday, it's good time to be pouring concrete. You don't have to worry too much about the rain. But here, let's just say you're also running a construction site. You need to suspend your crane operations because of high winds. Cranes usually can't operate when winds are more than 30 or 40 miles an hour. And so again, that's an operating protocol. We put in the system once, and then you just know exactly what to do and when. Now, the nice part about this is that not only are you able to come in and see this, but you can then set up alerts very easily. So let's just say you wanted to do crane suspension. All right, so we can't run the crane during this time. We set up this event, and you can set up exactly how early in advance the notification goes out. You can alert someone an hour before, 2 days before, 10 minutes before, and then you just set exactly who you want to receive that alert, what you want the alert to say, and it easily goes out via text, email, whatever communication system that your business uses. And the really nice thing I mentioned earlier is that all of these different verticals are being used through the exact same platform. It's a plug and play. You're up and running in minutes. We have thousands of pre-built dashboards that literally any industry can use. So for instance, let's say that you're in the landscaping industry. Come into the tool, you say, all right, landscaping, what's the job that I'm the most interested in? Perhaps it's irrigation management. You come in and boom, you already have a dashboard that's completely set up and ready to go based on dry conditions, heavy rains, knowing when you need to irrigate, when you don't, other jobs for agriculture. You know, if you need to know if there's a cold front coming, so you need to either protect your crops or harvest, or you need to know when to plant seeds. All that is just sitting right here in this dashboard. Another good example, maybe we take a look at.
Could you scan down just for a little bit of the insights in this dashboard? Because I thought I think that's just incredible.
Absolutely. So if we go back into irrigation management, so all these different insights, you can basically just select and start using. We can also customize any of these insights as well. So businesses can, again, come in, put in the exact insights that they need. And then once you build the insights, for instance, all right, we need to monitor for dry conditions. You put in the location where you want to monitor that. And then once you put in the insight, everything just starts to show here in your insights dashboard.
And just so I'm clear, the insights are basically customizable. In other words, a business can basically say either use what you've templated or add additional things that they find particularly important. So if it's an irrigation company that needs to add a layer of fertilizer activity that goes on maybe 3 times during the season, they can do that as well.
Exactly. Everything's 100% customizable, and we've built the platform so that it can be customized for any different industry or any type of job. That was one of the big parts of sort of why I joined the company. That founder and I first sat down and got to know each other. Basically said, what we need to be able to do is solve for any industry, any job, anytime, all in one place, seamless sort of plug and play experience. And so, for instance, let's say you come in for restaurants. You look at things like outdoor seating guidelines, which of course has been top of mind for the last 18 months. You want to know, all right, when is outdoor seating going to be okay? When do I have to worry about heavy winds? When do I have to worry about extreme heat? Let's say, or for instance, go back to restaurants example, you want to know about shift management. When am I going to see an increase in orders? When is an increase in demand? Do I need to make sure that I'm well staffed, or I don't need to staff up as much based on what I'm going to see in demand? So again, all those different types of things can be fully tracked here.
It's just, it's amazing. It takes me back in the early 2000s. I was visiting Walmart and got a tour of their weather-based war room, and they had invested unbelievable amounts of money in the infrastructure to simply say when they should run their trucks. And where they should run their trucks based on rain or high winds across the plains, whatever. And it was amazing to me at the time. And I look at this and I just cannot believe the amounts of data that you guys are crunching and then creating this kind of insights that are so incredibly practical. And as I said, it really feels like, why were we doing this before? Because it is so relevant and so practical to the way that small businesses run.
Yeah, and I think and sorry to rip it on that point as well. Just you mentioned trucking, so it's interesting because one of the things we're also able to do is
that's it. Yeah, that's it. Actually, right there.
Yeah, so here we're in trucking. Let's take last mile delivery. We're able to help you understand the weather at a specific location, whether you have a warehouse or a restaurant, but then also if you're in transit. So we have sort of routing in real time, so you can know based on the route that you need to travel, if we think there's going to be an increase in traffic tomorrow because it's going to be heavy rain or heavy snow or sleet. in real time, we're able to tell you, hey, you should probably reroute and go this way because of traffic patterns. We're also able to say, for instance, based on the weight of your truck, based on sort of the grade that you're driving, the weight, the speed, the wind direction, the wind gust, if you're going to be at risk of any type of knockover. That's for trucks, that's for rail, basically any type of transport there as well. But yeah, it's critical to have it both at your physical location, but then also on your routing.
Amazing. So can you maybe walk us through 3 or 4 examples of actual real users that are and how they're using this platform?
Yeah, I pulled up some great ones that I thought would be relevant. So a couple ones I want to walk through. The first one is called ATD. It's an audio visual company. And they are responsible for basically setting up outdoor events, specifically for concerts. Mm-hmm. So last year, they were in New York City during the month of November, and they had to plan 3 different concerts that were all happening on the same night in 3 different parts of the city. One was in Manhattan, one was in Brooklyn, one was in another part of the city. And so they were dealing with multiple vendors and crews, or they said they were over 100 people involved, and they need to make a go or no go decision 48 hours in advance. The concert could happen, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday. That didn't matter as much, but leading into sort of the weeks, at some point, 48 hours out, they needed to say, we have a go Thursday night, 8 p.m. Everyone mobilized, basically. Your vendors are going to go, your media stuff, the ticketing, the customers, everything. So first, they need to be able to have the confidence to look at all 3 locations and say, we feel good about rain, wind, lightning. Those are the 3 big things that are going to throw something off. And then they need, once they actually decide to go, they then need to worry, okay, is there any safety issues? Is there going to be any lightning coming in? Is there going to be any high winds that might knock something over, or they could put our people at risk? And so being able to have the confidence to make the decision, not have to overstaff, not have to cancel, huge cost savings for them. But that, just think about that for any type of outdoor event, right. Outdoor sport, golf courses, boating companies, anything like that. But that one I love. We talked a little bit about sort of landscaping, agriculture. CropSafe is another one. So sort of a farming app company. But just when it comes to weather, 85% of crop losses in the US are because of weather, whether it's drought, flood, hurricanes, severe storms, heat wave, or just freezes, wildfires. And so time to plant and time to harvest is critical. If you plant at the wrong time, you could have yield losses, or if you don't harvest at the right time, you could lose some of your crops. So they're using our weather intelligence basically for all the predictive actions that teams can take at specific farms throughout the country. Another one would be on the construction area, which we talked a little bit about, Osborne Construction, which is a company down in Texas. They specialize in warehouse construction. And so they're building warehouses, and any type of weather, again, sort of throws them off. Rain, snow, wind, hail, it can damage equipment, shut down building sites. It can delay construction for weeks. And so by doing a few different things with our weather intelligence, they're able to improve their operations by adjusting their staff schedules so they don't have to cancel shifts. They know, okay, if we schedule people from 7 to 5 today or 8 to 6, we know that shift is going to be fine and we won't have to cancel it. By laying concrete at the right times and on the right days. As I mentioned earlier, you need certain weather conditions to lay concrete. Humidity impacts it, rain impacts it. So if you lay it at the wrong time or the wrong day, you might have to go back and lay it again the next day. So now you've just doubled your cost of materials, more waste, more staffing. You also just missed a deadline. So now you might be off. They've been able to basically use our weather intelligence for, again, kind of predictive operations. And they're doing a few things with it now. One, they're winning more deals because their confidence to meet and beat project timelines gives them a competitive advantage. One thing about small business, as we all know, is there's new ones that pop up every year, and that's what we love about this world. But if you start missing your deadlines with your contractor, they'll just go try someone else just because they can. But if you're able to come to them and say, hey, I know exactly how weather is going to impact this event. We know historically what the month of November looks like, but we're using this platform to get ahead of it and mitigate all the delays. It really helps during the pitch process. And then during the actual build, able to keep workers safe, from things like, high winds knocking over loose equipment, or unexpected lightning or rain, people being on the roof when it starts to rain unexpectedly, and then just general cost savings. This company actually cited a $100,000 cost savings just on one build that they were doing by using us. So those are some of the types of things you can imagine, golf course, landscaping, health companies, events, technology, farming, agriculture. But the last one I'll mention, because I think it's interesting. It's not quite small business, but it's sort of local government. We had our first city start using the platform earlier this year. So the city of Quincy, just outside of Boston, they're using our platform specifically for snow removal predictions. So coming into last winter, they wanted to know, okay, based on where our city is located, and it's a little bit near the coast, so they have a bunch of different microclimates, how much snow is actually going to fall, how much is going to be falling per hour, what parts of the cities are going to be the most impacted, and then really, how much staffing do we actually need to put out? Do we need to put out our full crew, which is going to cost the taxpayers X amount of dollars, or maybe we only need to use half the crew, or maybe we need to use more crews because we need to actually keep people safer because it's going to be a really, really bad one. But the Quincy mayor basically said he'd never seen anything like this at this level of detail, predictability, and sort of ease of use to start saving the taxpayers money. So those are just a couple examples. As I showed earlier in the platform, there's literally any different industry that people can really come in and plug and play on.
Okay, I got a million questions and I'm not even sure where to begin. So I think when we first talked, and you were explaining to me what Tomorrow.io does, you cited something that I thought was fairly amazing. It goes back to kind of the source of the data that you guys are using, and your scientists are basically and mathematicians are basically figuring out how to be predictive. NOAA, how often does NOAA actually update the baseline of how they are then dispersing their weather forecast to the world?
So the most interesting way to answer this question actually is to think about space. I'm gonna take your question. I'm gonna go a little bit over here with
that's great.
It's so essentially the best way to think about it. So there's one satellite that's currently in space right now. It cost about $1 billion to create. It's been up in space for about 10 years, and it sends back weather data for any point in the globe once every 3 days. So every 3 days, we're getting that technology that's coming down from space and saying, here's what we see. And a lot of that is feeding some of the models that we see out there. So we're taking that into account, but then we're also taking all of the real time, as I mentioned, the sensors on the airplanes, the cars, all the other models that we're putting in. So we're basically doing everything in real time. But to really, as I talked about earlier, revolutionize this industry, what we're doing is we're actually building our own satellites, and we're sending those up into space next year. So they are equipped with, it's one of those things where
remarkable. No, it's so cool.
I can't take credit for building it, obviously, but the team here is just incredible what they've been able to pull off. What we're going to be able to do is we have radar equipped on these satellites. And so they do not cost $1 billion each through the advancements of technology that we have, but they're going to go up next year. And what they're going to do is they're going to take that 3-day refresh rate and they're going to reduce it down to about 3 hours. So we're going to be the only company in the world with that level of technology up there that's refreshing once every 3 hours. We actually had an article posted in CNN last week about it. The U.S. Air Force invested $20 million into the project to accelerate getting the satellites up there. But once those are up there, it'll only further sort of accelerate what we've been able to do so far. But it's really critical because we talked about earlier. I mean, again, I grew up just sort of assuming that the weather forecast was a flip of a coin. I just sort of assumed that's what weather was. And now that I've learned about it and really understood what this company is able to do, it's changing. You think about 85% of the globe doesn't have reliable real-time forecast data. Parts of the globe can't even get real-time forecast data, but really like reliable, 85%. Then you think about the businesses. 70% of businesses are impacted by weather. So you have most of the globe that doesn't have access to great forecasting. 70% of businesses are impacted by weather. And then 90% of businesses don't even know what to do with weather. We looked at the map earlier. You put that in front of a business. What are they supposed to do with it? 20-mile-an-hour winds. What does that mean for my restaurant food delivery?
The umbrellas blow away or not.
Yeah, I don't know. 30% chance of rain. What does that mean for the golf course?
Right.
There might be lightning strikes. When do you let people start golfing again? Those types of things. So it's, the technology and the weather forecast is certainly one part of it, and as impressed as I am with our ability to build out these models and send satellites up into space, if we didn't have an easy to use product for people, none of it would matter. We'd just be selling data.
Right.
Because again, we can have the best space data in the world, but if I put that in front of a restaurant owner, in front of a general contractor, we need to tell them what to do and when in a very easy and simplistic way.
So I'm assuming a subscription model. Is it affordable? Can the average small business afford this?
Absolutely. We have API plans and that start as low as $27 a month. And then we also have sort of baseline software packages as well. So we have a bunch of businesses that either ingest our API into their existing solutions, or we have a SaaS platform that people can come in and use on web and mobile.
So inject into existing SaaS solutions. So give some examples of what those solutions might be.
Sure. So let's see on the API side. So just a good example here is on demand is an easy one for me to talk about because everyone sort of knows it. Mm-hmm. We help Uber with their on demand. And so they don't use our software platform, they use our API because they've built sort of their own communication systems that go out to the drivers, that inform their algorithms, that inform their product. So mm-hmm. that's kind of a seamless plug and play through there. We also have, some healthcare companies. Air quality is of course a big one. The majority of the world, the United States included, is now exposed to air quality issues on an ongoing basis and will continue to be. So if you have sort of a predictive app or like a healthcare app to help people understand when to go outside, when to go for walks, when to exercise, when to make sure they have their inhalers, again, like an API would just go into something like mobile alerts or something like that.
So do you envision or are you already working on plugging into marketing decision support tools and financial decision support tools?
So marketing is definitely a really good one. We have customers that are running marketing programs based on weather, and that is not something that's so new. But the way that our technology can work now and inform in real time is actually quite new. And then in addition to the really, really hyper local targeting. But I think it was years ago, one of the best ads I saw was, as soon as it starts raining, fire up the Netflix ads, mm-hmm. something like that. But if you think about it now, let's just take restaurants as an example. It's an easy one. If you know that there's going to be rain coming over the next couple of days, it's very easy for you to send out sort of a marketing campaign to your existing or new prospects to say, pre-order your delivery now or pre-order your dinner now, to make sure that you don't see anything like a really delayed response or increase in price or anything like that.
And then from the finance plugin, particularly those businesses that are so cash flow dependent, restaurants might be one of them. Do you envision plugging into financial management tools so that they can actually be even more predictive of, we're going to be short on cash for when we owe our vendors this much money, or when we have payroll to meet, or whatever it is?
Yeah, the nice thing about the API is it's seamless plug and play. So we're able to integrate with basically any system. I'll put it this way: we're integrating with a number of systems for companies like Delta and Uber and National Grid and the NFL. So the nice thing about the company is we went and solved all of those problems at the enterprise level first. And now as we're into the SMB space, we sort of know what problems to expect, what challenges are going to arise. So we're able to get ahead of them.
Would you describe where you are right now with small business? Is your customer base mainly early adopters, or are you starting to move into the curve of, that big middle section of mass adoption? We've built a entire business unit here at the company strictly around small business. So the legal name of the company is actually the Tomorrow Companies. We have a number of different business units within the company. So we have an enterprise business unit, which operates over here. We have a consumer part of the business. We have an app in the App Store that has millions of users. That team's over here. And then where I'm working right now with the team, I'm on a completely separate SMB team.
and we just sleep and breathe SMB all day, every day. We have our own engineering team, our developers, our product folks, our sales folks, our account support folks, kind of go-to-market folks. Everything is 100% SMB focused. So we've been spinning this up for the past couple of years, and it started with, what every good venture does is there a problem? We don't want to try and bring a solution and create a problem and then try and work off the back of it. Do small businesses really have a problem with weather? Was the first thing that we sat down as a team and we looked at. And we just started having conversations. We would just walk down to the local restaurant around the corner. We would walk down to the boating club on the harbor here. And we just started to listen. How does weather impact? And we just kept hearing the same things over and over again. I don't know when the weather is going to hit. When it does, I don't know when it's going to stop. I'm usually overcautious because I don't want to deal with safety issues. And it's just sort of a cost of doing business, is how everyone kept saying. This is a cost of doing business. This is how it always was. And each time I heard it, I just kept thinking, well, that's what I said about, getting a taxi 10 years ago. This is just the way life is. And so we started our first campaign almost 2 years ago, and we've been growing ever since. So the industries that we're seeing right now, you asked a bit about early adopters. We're seeing a lot of interest right now and usage from businesses focused on sort of anything outdoor, but agriculture, farming, technology, delivery, health, number of others. But as I showed earlier, it's literally any. And there's one recent that we started looking at was aqua farming, which I was pretty interested in.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So are they giving you is there a feedback loop for them to kind of say, hey, this is great, but that classic kind of power user statement?
Definitely. SMB is, SMB is it's a hard industry to crack into and to run at scale. There's a number of startups and businesses that have tried that just haven't been successful. And the reason is because you first need to have a dead simple product that anyone can just come in, understand, start using, and get value from. It's very hard to do that at the SMB level. Because again, this is one part of their business. They have 10 other things that they need to do. I always remember when my dad would come home from work and he'd be complaining about having to figure out payroll. He was a psychologist. He didn't know payroll. He wanted to sit down and help patients. So, weather is one part of the business's journey here. But the product is incredible. You really can come in, you can start using it from scratch. That map and the insights dashboards that I showed you, there's a step-by-step sort of walkthrough where you can very easily put in your location, identify what you want to track, and you're up and running in minutes. But that said, we of course need to provide support for businesses that need it. So we have an incredible team here that helps small businesses get up and running, make sure they're successful. We do check-ins with them. We really want to understand their business. So every time we do a case story or success story, it's mostly for our learning more than anything else, just to make sure that we're growing in the industry. So we've started to solve for a lot of those things. What we know is that small businesses and any business owner needs to feel like the solution is tailored for them. It's custom to them. It was built for their business, not for small business, if that makes sense. And being able to customize down to the street level for any job, for any industry, allows us to provide that experience.
I mean, what I think is extraordinary is, the perpetual dilemma that you described of anyone who sells to small business is fragmentation kind of leads to a fragmented response. The fragmentation of small businesses, millions and millions of snowflakes out there. And, we talk over the years, we've talked a lot about how do you respond to that fragmentation? How do you scale in the context of that fragmentation? Is that part of the model of Tomorrow IO? Is that really, from where you sit? Yeah, we're solving that actually. We've found basically this thing that frankly binds all of us. It's called the weather. And we're finding ways in which we can then disperse that and kind of franchise that out in almost what feels like an individual level response to small businesses. Is that the key to success?
I think it's a good way to describe it. I remember when I was first interviewing with the company, and one of the first things I like to ask is, what is the problem that you're solving? And anytime the response is one word, it's usually a sign that the TAM is absolutely enormous. And it was weather. They just said weather. And then you get into the stat. I mean, it's just, what do you solve it? We're solving weather. And then you look at it again, 90% of businesses don't know what to do with the weather, and it's impacting everyone. And what we're seeing just in the past 2 years, I mean, literally, when I look at the weather headlines now in the news, it feels like every week I'm reading a story that I used to read once a year. This year, we've already surpassed last year based on the number of billion-dollar climate events that have happened in the United States. And we're on track to break last year's record, which is not a record any of us want to be breaking. But that's just where things are. We are seeing huge increases in wind events, flooding, wildfires, air quality issues. I think when you and I first started talking, I was asking you, how many people in New York, you used to live there, how many people in New York would say they lived in a flood zone last year?
Yeah, right.
Probably not a lot.
Right.
And when you think about it at the macro level, those are big climate events, and they're impacting millions in infrastructure. But then the knock-on effects of what that does to small businesses usually gets lost in the details. So that's why I love this focus. That's why I love where the company is positioned right now, and the team is exhilarated by the opportunity to help the businesses, because it's something that, again, I've seen basically for my whole life.
Well, I am gushing shamelessly. I mean, I really literally think this is one of the most exciting things that I've seen in the last couple of years, as far as a new product offering into this enormous small business ecosystem that has a chance of really creating an extraordinary level of impact and making small businesses significantly smarter in how they, just how they run their business, how they go to market, how they plan financially, all of these things based on that ubiquitous one word item, weather. It's really very, very cool. Dan, I mean, you got to come back. I want to, I think you've taken the opportunity over the years with us to kind of teach, in the context of a real world application, things like product-based leads and how to use those versus market-based leads. So I want you to, if you would, tuck in the back of your mind as you learn the model and the ways in which you're going to market and developing this product as a playbook on behalf of all of us out here who are trying to better serve small businesses. I think that would be enormously appreciated. And please come to Napa next May and talk to our audience, because I think that the story is just so fascinating. And I know it's going to get better as it rolls into next year. Thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, Dave.